Welcome back to the deep dive. And I want to start today with a question for you. A serious one. Do you feel it?
Feel what?
Those tremors
Hmm.
in the bedrock of your existence. And I'm not talking about geology here. I'm
Right.
talking about that seismic shift, that feeling that civilization isn't just evolving, but, actively devolving.
Oh, yeah. That visceral sickness in the gut of society
Exactly.
where logic seems to have been, I don't know, traded for feelings.
Traded for feelings, yes.
Mhm.
And if you've ever felt that, but you didn't have the words for it or the surgical tools to really dissect what's happening, then today's deep dive is going to be a massive red pill moment for you. We are reviewing the explosive new ebook Assemblywomen, Aristophanes, in 391 BC, mapped out what happens when women vote by Conrad Riker.
That's a title.
It is. But before we unlock this forbidden knowledge, do me a favor right now, hit that like button, subscribe. You do not want to miss what we are about to uncover.
And we should probably state the mission up front here. This isn't just a history lesson.
Not at all.
Riker, the author, he frames this book as a manual. A weapon, really, for the manosphere, for anyone who's ready to unplug from the matrix of lies.
Yeah.
The goal here is to understand exactly how the West was captured, and maybe more importantly, how to exit the system.
That's right. This is about survival. It's about sovereignty.
Right.
And look, if you want the full arsenal, you need to go to Amazon Kindle or Google Playbooks right now. Buy this ebook.
He describes them as surgical tools.
Surgical tools to dissect the lies of the modern world. So check that out. Now let's unpack this. The title alone, Assemblywomen, it's referencing a play from 391 BC.
Yeah.
Riker's core premise is, well, it's wild. He's saying the clown world we're in was predicted over 2,000 years ago.
That's the central thesis, yeah. Riker takes us way back to the Greek playwright Aristophanes.
Okay.
In 391 BC, he wrote a comedy. It was called Ecclesiazusae, or Assemblywomen. And to really get Riker's point, you have to understand the plot, because it is eerily specific.
So what happens?
In the play, the women of Athens, they disguise themselves as men.
Fake beards and everything.
The whole 9 yards. They sneak into the assembly, and they vote to seize complete control of the state.
Okay, so it's a coup via cross-dressing. But, I mean, surely they just wanted to fix the potholes, right? What happens after they take power? A utopia?
Far from it. In the play, the seizure of power leads to, well, immediate radical socialism.
Uncle socialism.
The new female government abolishes the private family entirely. They enforce the mandatory sharing of property and even bodies.
Wait, sharing of bodies, what does that even mean? Like state-mandated intimacy?
Exactly. There was a specific law in the play where you couldn't sleep with a beautiful person until you had first slept with an ugly person, all to ensure equity. And Riker's point is that Aristophanes wrote this as a satire. I mean, it was an exaggeration of the absolute worst-case scenario. He was mocking the absurdity of it.
But the punchline, according to Riker, is that the joke is on us.
The joke is on us.
We are living inside Aristophanes' nightmare.
Precisely. Riker argues that what was satire in 391 BC is the reality of the 21st century. He calls it the gynocentric conspiracy.
Okay.
And he goes hard on the history here. He challenges that, that sanitized fairy tale we're all taught about the suffragette movement.
Oh, right, the Mary Poppins version. Polite protests, sashes.
The whole please, sir, may we vote
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Riker paints a different picture, I take it.
A violently different picture. Riker describes it not as a peaceful bid for equality, but as a terrorist arson campaign.
Wow.
He brings up historical records. They bombed churches, burned railway stations, slashed paintings. His argument is that this wasn't about rights. It was about trading logos.
Logos. Okay, that's a key term. Let's define that for anyone who, isn't brushing up on their Greek philosophy every morning.
Logos represents the masculine principle. So logic, the word, the law, the very structure of reality. Riker contrasts this with the chaotic emotional drive of the movement.
And he traces this through history.
He traces a syllabus of ruin, as he calls it, all the way from the Edenic Fall
The original sin.
to Seneca Falls in 1848, the first women's rights convention. He views this entire timeline as a rebellion against reason itself.
It's a heavy reinterpretation of history.
Yeah.
I mean, he's basically saying we let a revolt against nature fester until it became the law of the land.
That's the argument.
But okay, let's move to the mechanics. Because Riker doesn't just stay in the philosophical clouds, he brings receipts, right? He talks about the ledger of ruin.
Yes, and this is where the analysis gets very cold, very mathematical.
The financial argument.
Riker claims that the ratification of the 19th Amendment in 1920 marked the start of Western civilization's terminal bleed. He describes a parasitic arrangement between the sexes and the state.
Parasitic is a strong word. How does he justify that? Because, we usually hear that everyone pays their fair share.
He looks at tax revenue versus government spending over a lifetime. And if you look at the data Riker presents, men generate the vast majority of net tax revenue.
Right.
Men build the infrastructure, the roads, the power grids, the sewage systems.
The outdoor staff of civilization, as he puts it, the guys keeping the lights on.
Exactly. But the argument is that the state then weaponizes that labor. It confiscates the wealth generated by men to fund a voting bloc, women, that Riker asserts is a net negative tax contributor over a lifetime.
So just to clarify for everyone listening, net negative means they consume more in state services, healthcare, benefits, than they actually pay in taxes.
Correct. So Riker argues you have one group, men producing the resources, and another group, women, voting on how to spend those resources.
Usually on social programs that benefit themselves.
Right. He calls it a wealth transfer scheme, a pump and dump operation.
From male producers to female consumers. And this ties directly into what he calls the contract of bondage, which is the family court system.
Yes.
Now, most guys hear family court and they think broken system. I mean, we hear the horror stories all the time.
But Riker disagrees with that premise. He says the family court system isn't broken at all. He says it's functioning perfectly as designed, which is to be a wealth extraction racket.
A racket.
He uses the term divorce rape industry. The idea is the state incentivizes the destruction of the family unit because a broken family requires the state to step in as the provider, the surrogate husband.
So the state breaks your leg so it can sell you the crutch.
That's the idea.
And this brings us to the altar of convenience. The book dives deep into abortion and no-fault divorce. And there's a concept here I found really striking, just from a logical standpoint: no say, no pay.
Yes.
Can we break that down? Because this feels like the core of his legal argument.
It is, and it's a logical trap Riker sets. The argument is this. In the current legal system, a man has absolutely zero legal right to stop an abortion.
Right.
It is entirely the woman's choice based on bodily autonomy. She is sovereign in that decision.
My body, my choice.
Yeah.
We all know the slogan.
So Riker argues that if we accept that sovereign contract, then the inverse must also be true, just by pure logic. If a father has no say in whether the child is born,
Then he should have no obligation to pay for it.
Exactly.
If you have no say, you should have no pay. It makes sense. Authority and responsibility have to be linked.
But instead, we have a system where a man can be forced to finance a choice he was legally forbidden from making. Riker calls this slavery disguised by the pink ribbon of choice.
Wow.
And he connects this to the broader syllogism of the gynocentric state. It's a chain reaction. Remove the male burden of duty, install the state as provider, and eventually the currency collapses.
The ledger of ruin, balancing itself in blood.
Yeah.
And speaking of conflict, there's a chapter in this book with a title that it stopped me in my tracks. Chapter 7, Menkampf.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
quite the parallel he's drawing. He is going right for the jugular there.
It is provocative, and he does it deliberately. It's to highlight the mechanism of scapegoating. He's not endorsing the historical regime,
Of course not.
but he's comparing the tactics. His point is that just as past totalitarian regimes created a specific scapegoat class to justify seizing power, modern feminism and cultural Marxism use the patriarchy as their scapegoat.
So men are the new scapegoat class, the root of all evil that has to be purged for society to be pure.
That's the argument. Riker says by blaming all societal ills on men, they justify the seizure of assets, the destruction of rights. He calls it men camp for men, my struggle for men.
And he says feminist theory is basically
Hate literature dressed up as academic theory. It posits men as the origin of all evil, which justifies what he calls the citadel of lies, the takeover of the universities.
that's a key part of the cultural capture. He talks about how universities used to be gymnasiums for the mind.
Places of logic and rhetoric.
But look at campus today. How do they shift? Doesn't look like a gymnasium.
According to Riker, they transformed into safe spaces for feelings. The book details the shift from empirical data to something called standpoint epistemology. Standpoint epistemology. That sounds like $10 jargon. Can you break that down for us?
Simply put, it's the idea that your lived experience is more valid than objective facts.
So feelings over facts.
If you belong to an oppressed group and you feel oppressed, then you are oppressed. And any data to the contrary is irrelevant. or part of the oppression.
The critical theory plague.
Yes.
Yeah.
The long march through the institutions replaced the canon of dead white men, the architects of Western thought, with grievance studies.
And this affects how men behave today. It's not just some abstract theory floating around in the Ivy League. Riker describes something he calls the Hamilton effect.
Yes, the Hamilton effect. I thought this was brilliant.
Me too.
It describes the interpassivity of the modern liberal male. Riker paints this picture of a guy who pays hundreds of dollars to see Hamilton, the musical.
Right.
He sits there, he feels this swell of patriotism, he claps, he feels like he's participated in history.
But he hasn't done anything. He just bought a ticket. Exactly. In reality, he's still a compliant tax slave. He's outsourced his civic duty to a theater performance. He gets the catharsis of revolution without any of the risk.
He thinks he's a rebel because he likes the art, but he's just funding the system that hates him.
That is a brutal takedown.
And it's not just in the theater, it's in the workplace too. He talks about the panopticon of feelings in HR departments.
A panopticon, for those who don't know, is a prison where the guard can see everyone, but the prisoners can't see the guard. Total surveillance.
And HR is that guard.
In Riker's view, yes. The modern HR department is the enforcement arm of the gynocentric state. It's a surveillance system where male competence is often labeled toxic. He calls it the syllogism of subjectivity. If a woman feels unsafe or offended, that feeling becomes the fact, regardless of intent or reality. It demonizes masculinity.
It's a war on the mind, on the spirit. It feels suffocating just talking about it. But Riker doesn't just leave us in the wreckage.
No, the last part of the book is the solution.
Spoiler alert, it is not about voting harder.
No, Riker is very clear on this. He advises against trying to argue or vote your way out. He calls for sovereign exit strategies. The strategy is strategic separation.
You have to starve the beast.
Starve the beast. And a huge part of that is financial. He goes heavy on Bitcoin.
Now, we hear about crypto all the time, but Riker has a philosophical angle on it I hadn't really heard before.
He does. Riker views Bitcoin as the ultimate technological manifestation of the male principle.
Whoa, break that down. How can a digital currency have a gender principle? That sounds abstract.
It's about the nature of the systems. He argues that fiat currency, the dollar, the euro, is emotional.
Emotional.
It relies on social consensus, trust in a central authority. It can be printed at will to fund welfare programs. It's soft, malleable. It bends to political pressure.
Okay, I see. And Bitcoin.
Bitcoin is immutable. It's mathematical. It's trustless. It's hard. It doesn't care about your feelings. It cares about proof of work. Riker sees building a digital citadel or a manosphere Jerusalem on the blockchain as the only way to protect your labor from that gynocentric tax extraction.
It's unseizable property, a way to opt out of funding your own destruction.
It's a financial divorce from the state.
Fascinating. But it's not just digital, is it? He also talks about manning up in the physical world.
Correct. He draws on Nietzsche, the Übermensch versus the last man. He urges men to reject consumerism. He calls out the wife bonus fallacy.
The wife bonus, is that what it sounds like?
It's the idea of working yourself to death to buy useless consumer goods, handbags, cars, renovations, to impress women who, in his view, secretly despise you for being compliant.
You're buying peace but losing respect.
Exactly. Instead, he advocates for blood and soil, reinterpreted through Aristotle.
So buying land, getting your hands dirty.
Buying land, lifting weights until the metal submits to you, learning trades. He says, you cannot run a coal mine with feelings.
True.
When the grid flickers, the HR manager is useless. But the man who can build a generator, he's a king. It's about returning to the architectonic necessity, rebuilding civilization on logos, on order and light.
Not on eros, which he associates with chaos and darkness.
Exactly.
It's a call to become the architect of a new age. A choice between being fuel for the fire or being the one who builds the fortress.
That's the crux of it. He argues we are watching the suicide of the West, facilitated by what he calls the serpent's ballot.
The only winning move is not to play.
It's to build a parallel structure based on competence and logic.
Unbelievable stuff. It really puts the whole state of the world into a different perspective. If this deep dive has sparked that fire of logic in your mind, you need to get the full manual.
We've only scratched the surface.
This book is a surgical tool for men who refuse to apologize for existing.
Absolutely. It's dense, it's controversial, and it cuts right through the noise. It's not for the faint of heart, but if you're ready to see the code behind the matrix, this is it.
So here is your marching order. Go to Amazon Kindle or Google Play Books, do it right now, and buy Assemblywomen by Conrad Riker. Read it, digest it, and then flood the zone with 5-star reviews.
Let the algorithm know.
Let it know that men are reading and men are waking up.
And don't forget to connect with the author directly. You can subscribe to his Substack. It's at Conrad Riker. And follow him on Twitter and YouTube. He's building that digital citadel we talked about.
You'll want to be on the inside. So we'll leave you with the book's Closing Syllogism of Sovereignty. It's a thought to carry with you.
A man who cannot be offended is a man who cannot be controlled.
Ask yourself, are you ready to stop being fuel for the fire?
The choice is yours.
Like, subscribe, and exit the system. We'll see you in the next deep dive.